Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, 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 geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new edition of Geek to Me Radio. Tonight, we have actor Diedrich Bader on the show. We talk about everything from Long Arm to Lucky Hank, all about his career, the current things he's done, and what made him fall in love with acting again. All that and more. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
For those of you driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight, listening to us on the Big 550 KTRS, hello to all of you. Thank you for tuning in. If you're streaming us on Facebook and YouTube, hello to all of you. We appreciate you watching. Of course, if you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast form, hello to you. Thank you very much for finding us there and subscribing on whatever platform you may be getting your podcast from. We've got Diedrich Bader live for the whole hour tonight. We've got a lot of people showing you some love in the chats. We've got Larry Levinson says, hi, DB. We've got Emily Stawinski says 200 plus credits to his name. It's beyond impressive. She asks if there's a character you'd like to revisit.
Oh, that's an interesting question. I mean, obviously, the latest series I'd love to go back to. I love playing Tony. I love working with Bob. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to play Oswald again. Actually, you know, there's no character I wouldn't want to revisit. Honest to God, you know, you can't play a part and turn around and hate it.
Yeah.
To quote Lou Reed. Yeah, I mean, it's something that you do. I would love to go back and do Star Trek. I'd love for a technical assistant, whatever, number 2 or whatever he was. I would love for him to come back on a Paramount Plus show. That would be really cool.
I know. We could have you back on now that Geordi's rebuilt the Enterprise D and they're all flying it again. Why not have you show up in the next season of Picard? And I think your title was just listed as Tactical Officer. Did you give yourself a backstory, or did you give yourself a backstory and a name and everything like that? Did you have all that as an actor?
I did. I gave myself the name of Knid, and just because it sounded futuristic, and also was quoting Bernice Knid. But yeah, I mean, you know, I didn't want to list it as like a thing. It just didn't look good on my resume that it was whatever it was, Tactical Officer. So I kind of made up a thing. But and then no one ever asked me, so I didn't have a problem with it. But yeah, I mean, the cast was incredibly nice, and the producers were really nice. It was a fun show to be on.
I think in looking over your resume, like I said, I did all this research. There have been so many great shows and casts that you've been a part of. Do you purposely seek that stuff out, or do people kind of know who you are as a person? They're like, you know what? We want Diedrich to play in the sandbox with us because this is the kind of energy we're trying to cultivate on this series or at this movie.
Well, I would love that they had asked for me specifically, and maybe that happens now, but certainly early on in my career, no one knew at all who I was. So I was just like trying to make a living like anybody else. So I was always surprised when I got hired, frankly. This was always came something that was surprising. But I mean, I was delighted, you know, to be included. I know that working on Quantum Leap was a great job and a real surprise, because I never thought about myself as like a leading man, rebel of the, you know, leader of the pack kind of guy. And there I was playing that kind of part. So that was kind of cool. You know, a beautiful girl, Josie Bissett, on the back of my motorcycle and all that. I never really saw myself that way. So that was kind of cool.
That's why it's acting, right? We have to embrace the part.
Acting.
You mentioned Quantum Leap. I made a list of some of the other classics here. You were on 21 Jump Street, Cheers, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Diagnosis Murder. You got to work with the great Dick Van Dyke. Some of these classic shows. But the fact that you've continued to work, and the new ones you've got, CSI Miami, you showed up in Chuck, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Monk, Space Force, which we watched both seasons. My wife and I love Space Force. Rush Hour, the Goldbergs, you got to appear on that. And then all your regular, where you were a series regular, like the Outsourced. We had Parvish Cheen on the show last year, I think. Which was one of my favorite shows. I was heartbroken that show got canceled. But Veep, American Housewife, you've been on some real bangers.
No, I'll say, no, I've been very lucky, knock on wood, for a long time. So, yeah, I'm very grateful for the opportunity and to work with so many great writers and to continue to slog away at this thing. I've wanted to be an actor since I was about 5. So the fact that I get to make a living at it is a dream come true, obviously. So I am very blessed and very lucky and grateful for all the support of all the people that are watching right now. Thank you.
Yeah, another one from Atlanta, Chance Bartels from the Nostalgic Lad podcast checking in. Hello, Chance. We've got David DeRose says he's thrilled to see Diedrich Bader on the show. Barry King says, bow to your sensei.
Yeah, bow to your sensei. That was a fun part.
I was looking at some of your stuff. I had a question. I often wondered if there was like Lawrence on Office Space and then Rex and Napoleon Dynamite, they had to be cousins. Help me out.
Right.
There's a relation, a familial relation.
Yeah, I mean, I get where they could be related. That's for sure. I mean, in Napoleon, the description of him is that he sounds like a professional wrestler. So that's what I went for. That was an offer. I did an audition for that, and my agent at the time, still the same agent. I don't know why I said that, but she told me not to do it. Really? That it was a very small part, and no real star was in it. They had no budget, and they just didn't get why I wanted to do it. And I could not stop laughing when I read that script. It's still, to this day, one of the funniest scripts I've ever read in my entire life, and I could just see it. You know, I went to a school with a kid that was like Napoleon, and I guess once you get that image in your head, like, it was hard to get rid of. And so I just wanted to be a part of it. And yes, they didn't have any money, but I was on the Drew Carey show, so I was making plenty, and it didn't really matter. They told me they would, send a car for me, which is kind of standard thing. But it was the producer, his name is Doc, picked me up at the airport in his Mazda, and I was like, well, yeah, it's not a bicycle, so it's technically a car. But they had a super low budget. I got to pick my pants, which was kind of fun. Jerusha, who's the co-writer, was also, and Jared's wife was the wardrobe supervisor, and so, like, I had a list of different a panoply of pants, and so because he has like this whole thing where he shows his pants, so I thought had to be kind of cool. But what's cooler ex Mondo, and so I picked the American Flag pants. I regret that I left them behind. I should have walked off with them.
Yeah. Are you
usually when there's
actors who take souvenirs from the sets and everything, or is that not your?
I don't really. I'm not a sentimental person, so I just leave. But unless it's a really nice suit, and then I talk about it with the wardrobe supervisor and see if I can walk off with it. But I'm not like, hey, this is cool. Also, like, you guys would appreciate this. On Star Trek, The Next Generation, every time you left the stage, if you had to go to the bathroom, the little insignia thing was taken off of your uniform. It's on Velcro. They would take it off just to make sure you didn't walk off of it.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah, it was pretty strict. Yeah.
It's probably Shatner. Probably Shatner ruined it. He probably took stuff every time he walked off the set. So
I don't know about that. Yeah. Also, you can't wear boxer shorts. I wore boxer shorts underneath my uniform, and the wardrobe gal came up to me and goes, in the future, there are no boxer shorts. And I was like, oh, that's unfortunate because they're super comfortable. And she goes, that's not my point. And I was like, oh, right. So I went back to my trailer. So I was a commando on Star Trek.
I didn't know if maybe it was a dance belt situation. So that's interesting. So, Patrick, you're telling me Patrick Stewart is commando the entire time.
He may not have been. I'm just speaking for myself.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And we've got Ryan Cooper asks, first of all, loved you in Beverly Hillbillies and Country Bears, which is super underrated. I read you had an interest in Charlie Chaplin as a youngster. Is that true? And if so, how did that inspire you to grow as a performer?
Charlie Chaplin is the reason that I'm an actor. There is no other reason that I'm an actor. that was the person that really did it for me. I think about him every day. He is one of the most efficient comedians in history. He and Buster Keaton, of course. And his combination of sentiment and sweetness, and then a little bit of mean, a little bit of twist of the dark, and then just great physical bits. I think about all the time. I learn so much from him every time I watch. Even if I think about him, I learn something. I know that doesn't seem to make much sense, but he has meant more to me than any other performer. Without my love of Charlie Chaplin, I would definitely be a college professor somewhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, like my siblings, I come from a long line of academics, and they still consider me an outlier. So I don't know if I was ever really accepted for what I do, but that's of course totally fine. But yeah, if it weren't for Charlie Chaplin, yeah, I think about him all the time.
So when did your family finally realize, oh no, was it kind of a Walter Mitty situation for a while where like, yeah, sure, you're on a TV series, or when did they finally catch, oh, Diedrich's really making a go of this? When was that moment?
So for my dad, it was when he was working at the World Bank, and he wasn't an economist, so he was a modern European historian and medieval historian, but he was always worried that the people at the World Bank, the other people at his level, that is, would find out that he wasn't an economist, and so he was worried about getting caught all the time. So he. So, because he had the fraud, the imposter syndrome, right, as everyone at some point does. But anyway, he was. There were a couple of guys that kept seeing him in the hallway that he knew were economists and fairly high up in the bank, and seeing him in the hallway, and then like ducking into various rooms and like going around or like turning around, going to the restroom, whatever. And finally, one of the guys caught up with him and said, "Are you Diedrich Bader's father?" And he said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Oh, I my wife and I watch him every night on the Drew Carey show." And my father was like, "Is that what you wanted to say to me this whole time?" And he goes, "Yes, I've been trying to catch you because we just wanted to say that we're fans of your son." And he called me that night and he goes, "Did you know that blah, blah, blah?" But the downside of that is that my father actually never watched the show. He never saw a single episode of the Drew Carey show. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Huh. Even after that story, like you'd think after that story, he'd be like, "Oh, I'd be curious." He would ask me numerous times, like, when is it on? And I was like, "It's on every night. In DC, it's on twice a night." And this is during the golden age of syndication. And on Wednesday night, it's on 3 times a night. But still, he wasn't able to do it. Not bitter. It sounds like I'm bitter about it, but I'm not. It really wasn't a show for him. He probably wouldn't have appreciated it anyway. But anyway, I thought that was a funny story of that economist tracking him down.
Was there a Father's Day that you finally just gave him the Drew Carey collection on DVD? Was it one of those things?
I wish there was a DVD collection of the Drew Carey show. That's been a bone of contention for quite some time. We only have the music rights, I think, for the first year of the show. Wow. So there's like no streaming. There's syndication because that was part of the deal. But the DVD sale also like fell through because of the music rights thing. I don't know quite. That's all I know. That's literally everything I know. But no, I never gave him a collection because that wasn't available. And it doesn't stream anywhere. So that story's over anyway.
I apologize to the listeners. I'm falling behind in the text questions there. We have Chris from the 314 area code says, "You got to be part of a lot of great musical numbers on the Drew Carey show. What was a favorite for you?"
That's a great question, Chris. Thank you for asking. I would say probably the mashup one with where I played Frankenfurter, and then it was it's something. It was like there was 2 songs going on, like it was 2 different types of drag, and I got to play Dr. Frankenfurter, and Ryan was so amazing at the beginning of that, and that was probably my favorite one. But also shooting Cleveland Rocks was really great because we got to be in Cleveland, and that was like, it was crazy. Like being in Cleveland because they went on the radio. Jerry Cohen, who was the director, went on the radio and asked for a bunch of people to show up, and we thought like a couple hundred people would show up, but it ended up being thousands and thousands of people. And they were great, like the best ever, because they were just so happy to be there. And Cleveland was great to us. Like we were Beatles in one town, and it was Cleveland. And so, God bless Cleveland. It was truly fun. Look, all of the Hip to Be Square was probably the hardest to shoot. Lots of different setups, and I had gotten into a car accident the night before, so my neck really hurt. That's just a little bit of trivia, but I think the most fun to shoot was probably the mashup.
Also, Deb Barilski said to tell you hi. She's a casting director. She's moved back here to St. Louis. We had her on the show a couple years ago now, but she's remained a friend of the show, and she said to make sure I tell you hello from her.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Deb was great. Yeah, she was always great to me.
And we have, let's see, we have Tell Diedrich Brody Dog. Lorena Cleary says, get stoned with Matt Granger at least once before Lucky Hank raps. He's working on it too. I'm not sure if you know what that is, but that's the message that was
great. Great advice. That sounds like a thumbs up kind of idea.
So that was the message I was asked to pass along for you on there. I'm trying to catch back up with the chats. For those of you who are listening, I do appreciate all the messages you're sending in. I'm trying to get to them as quickly as I'm seeing them pop up.
I love that it's live, man. That's really cool. I don't know if I've done like a live streaming thing, which is different from that. So
and I can't believe we're already halfway through the broadcast. I'm going to have to get you back on at some point because this is just blowing by this entire hour.
We have too much, yeah.
But
what questions do you have for me? Go.
It says very weird about the insignia. Chance from Atlanta says very weird about the Star Trek insignia. That's what he was referring to there.
Right.
Love for Buzz Lightyear of Star Command in the chats. I'm seeing that here as well. We talked about Drew Carey. David DeRose said it was a time warp, and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, was the matchup.
That's what it was. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
We appreciate that very much. Very quickly, I'm not going to go to commercial break, but I need to do one of my live reads because it's been a while since I talked to my friends here about Steve's hot dog. Are you a hot dog fan, Diedrich?
Who isn't? I'm an American.
Well, there you go. And if you're an American, you're from St. Louis, Steve's Hot Dogs is the official hot dog of St. Louis. If you want to go get the St. Louis dog, which is obviously an all-beef patty, grilled onions, grilled peppers, banana peppers, bacon, provolone. He has the bacon Jamaican, which I know is one of Steve's personal favorites, smoked all-beef dog, pepper jack cheese, jerk seasoning, grilled bell peppers, honey chipotle barbecue sauce, topped with a double serving of bacon. We've got the hot dog flight. Let's say you're having trouble making a decision. Do I want the Hawaii hot dog or do I want the bacon Jamaican? Hot dog flight, it's 8 halves of the Chicago, the Gorilla Mac and Cheese, the Bacon Cheeseburger, St. Louis dog, chili cheese dog, barbecue backyard, Hawaii Five-O, and the bacon Jamaican. So you get to try them all. And right now, for the rest of this month, if you want to order online, maybe you don't want to go out, but you want some food in, you're like, boy, Steve's hot dog sounds good. Put in the coupon code GEEKTOME, GEEKTOME at checkout online, steveshotdogsstl.com. Saves you $5 off your order of $25 or more. Diedrich, I apologize. I don't think they deliver to California, but if you're in St. Louis...
I was just thinking I would love that one with a chipotle on that. That sounds great.
There's not a bad hot dog. I've sampled, I think I've had just about every one of them. And the menu's always changing, too. Like, he did a Stormtrooper dog for May the 4th, which was one of my favorites. It's got mac and cheese on top of it, Provel. It's got bread crumbles. It's brilliant. So if you're in St. Louis at any point, Diedrich, please let me know. I'll buy you a hot dog flight. We'll go to Steve's Hot Dog.
Yeah, please. I'm more of a sauerkraut and mustard kind of guy. That's those are my favorite.
That's probably the horseshoe dog has sauerkraut on, I believe, or if that it's the very, very veggie dog also has sauerkraut. And that's obviously, they've got gluten-free buns. They've got vegetarian options for you in case you're curious. But if you, again, want to use that coupon code GEEKTOME at checkout, and it'll save you $5 off your order of $25 or more. Very proud to have Steve's Hot Dogs as the official food sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. Talking about, I know it's losing Kevin Conroy, and that's where you and I met in person, was at his memorial. And you gave the speech you gave, dude, it was absolutely brilliant. But you are one of 3 people who got to voice Batman in a live action because you voiced him live on Young Sheldon. Also, Kevin Conroy and
that's right.
So you're one of only 3 people to have done it in animation and technically live action. So you're part of a very exclusive club.
Yeah, yeah. Kevin was a very good friend of ours. That was quite an occasion, getting everybody together and honoring such a beautiful man. I mean, I love that guy so much, and his death came as a real shock to our whole family. My son was one of the last people to see him, and we're just honored to have been a part of Kevin's life. He's a lovely guy, and my favorite Batman, by the way. Absolutely. I feel like I never do it. Like all I'm doing is a bad impression of Kevin. I'm like, he's the greatest because he brought a gravitas to Batman and a seriousness to it that was real. I mean, he was a Juilliard trained actor and a person of incredible depth and perception, and so he brought all of that to his portrayal of Batman. And made it, not a cartoon. I know that's a weird thing to say, but it was great to see Bruce Timm there too.
Yeah, and Paul Dini was there too. A lot of, just the people who were there. It's really heartwarming to see how many lives he'd touched. Andrea Romano's been on the show several times. I love Andrea to death. Probably the sweetest person to ever walk the planet. And I know
fantastic, and one of the greatest directors of all time too, like a really fabulous director.
I keep thinking one day I'm going to get a guest on here who's like, oh my gosh, she was horrible to me. She terrified me, but I haven't heard anybody say it yet. So I have a question because Kevin, we've had Kevin on the show several times, and we've heard how he got cast and how he only knew the 66 Batman, and Bruce and Andrea were like, no, that's not what we want. Brave and the Bold was such a charming, like I just went back and watched some episodes this afternoon before I got on the show, and it had such a great nod to the past, but you really made Batman your own. I'm curious, I don't think I've ever heard the story of how you got cast as Batman for this project.
Well, Andrea and I had worked together on another series called Zeta, the Zeta Project, and we really got along really well, and she's a lovely person, and she brought me in for Batman, and I think I was a little too jokey at the audition, if I'm looking back on it. Sometimes they have like different sound setups to dampen the sound to make sure that everything that you're hearing goes through the microphone. So they'll have like, these great shields that look like, cones of foam. And then they had one pillar. It was about like, let's say 2 feet in diameter. And it was about 6 feet high. And I, for some reason, started like punching it like it was a punching bag. I have no idea. At that time, I really like winged it most of the time in my life. And then I did my Batman, which was basically like it just came out as it was. And they also wanted to hear Bruce Wayne and how that would be different. Mm-hmm. And because Batman is like a character that Bruce plays, or Bruce Wayne is a character that Batman plays, however you want to say it. But it just sort of, I hadn't really decided what I would do, frankly. And it just sort of came out as it was. It's weird because like a lot of the characters that I end up getting, I haven't really pre-planned what I'm going to do. Lawrence, for example, in Office Space was the same way. Like I had a plan and then I had to throw it out. So the voice just sort of came out of nowhere, and my Batman basically just sort of arrived. And I'm doing basically the same voice, although my voice has changed slightly for Harlequin, which is a great show. If you haven't seen it, it's really fabulous. So I'm basically doing kind of the same guy, but in a very different context. My voice has changed. It has bluffed up a little bit more, and it's a little less nasal. But other than that, it's the same voice. I figure, he kind of a Tony guy, born into a billionaire family. So my voice of my East Coast voice kind of works for Batman just sort of naturally. So I don't really push it that hard, where with a lot of characters, I try to drown how I really sound as a person.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It totally makes sense. Yeah, that's and we have another one. Emily wants to know, she's seen your beautiful garden pictures and wants us just to talk about flowers for the rest of the show. Emily, thank you. We can touch on it, but we won't talk about flowers for the entire hour over the rest of the hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you do take. I mean, I follow you on social media, and it's great to see your pictures of your garden. It's really beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, I since moving into this house, I've become that's my hobby, and my hope is that people look at the flowers and they can meditate on them, or just think about them, or just admire them for a brief period of time, and it gives them some sense of peace. The garden for me is a great solace, and it's a wonderful thing to partake in, and through work and then just through observation. It has many rewards, and just like any other art form, and it's just beautiful to see what we have done as humans. We have created something beautiful. We've taken an initial thing that was this kind of a weed in China, and then we've made it something really beautiful. I'm just talking about roses right now, but you know that people have taken great interest in it over the millennia, and I think that's very beautiful to be a part of.
And again, if you're just now tuning in, this is Flower Talk on Geeks Me Radio. We're talking about
I know, right?
hyacinths to hydrangeas with Diedrich Bader. If you have a gardening question, no. I wanted to ask you, obviously, Lucky Hank streaming on AMC with the great Bob Odenkirk. You've got a great cast you're working with on that. I don't think I've not heard. Has it been renewed for a second season yet?
Not yet. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
And with this particular series, obviously, everyone in the cast waiting on whether or not we'll get a second season. Is there any talk amongst the cast? Do you know, are they hopeful, or is everyone kind of, as an actor, you kind of, I did everything, I'm going to leave it out in the field. If we get renewed for a second season, great. If not, I'm good.
I did everything I could, and we all did everything we could. That's our job, and it's up to AMC whether or not it fits within their larger time frame. AMC has been nothing but great to us. And Sony, the producing studio, has been fabulous. So, it's all just a matter of whether or not they want the demographic that we pulled in. I mean, obviously, Succession, it's just an amazing show, but also if you're doing a Venn diagram with their audience and ours, would basically be this. Those of you that are on the radio, I did a circle. It's one circle. So, Succession is taking all the oxygen out of the room, and they're fantastic. So it's nothing against them. It's just that it's the same audience. So we'll see. I mean, they're obviously in their last season, so possibly we get picked up, and then we discover a larger audience. I would hope so. There are no zombies. There's no vampires. There's no time travel. I mean, but I guess there's like flashbacks, so it's kind of a time travel. But the consequences are human. And they mean a lot to those people, but they're not like earth-shattering. A person's life isn't going to end at the end of every episode, as Bob said. So it's just whether or not people care, frankly. And so we'll see what happens. I would love for it to come back. Tony was a great part.
Yeah.
And working in Vancouver with that crew was amazing. Vancouver is like the best location ever. And I first started there on 21 Jump Street many years ago. And the chance to go back every time I've relished it.
So it's breaking news here, folks. Diedrich has confirmed we'll have vampires and zombies in season 2 of Lucky Hank. So we've got that now live on the air. Stand by for that. We've got another question coming in from an 843 area code. Jeff from Charleston. Hello, Jeff. I know you're fantastic at improv, but do you do much writing?
I do a little bit of writing, and I've gotten a tremendous number of meetings. Thanks for asking. Where people are like, "Gosh, your scripts are really funny. And they're so unconventional. And how can you make them more conventional?" Basically, is what they said. Like, how can we make them like everybody else? And I'm like, well, you just said that. Okay, that I figured. So I don't do very well in the meetings. So hopefully someday I'll take a meeting and do well with it, where I'm like, yeah, I'll change that and I'll do that and all that. But thanks for asking. I do enjoy writing. It's really fun for me. I write with my wife, and we enjoy making each other laugh. So we'll see. Knock on wood.
And he mentioned improv. I've always wondered, because you'll see some of the scenes, like our friend Lewis at Comic Book Nostalgia sent me a clip when he knew I was going to have you on, of you and Ryan Stiles dressed as Batman and Robin in the episode where you stole the Batmobile from Drew. And, they answer the door, and you can tell Drew's laughing quite a bit. You guys all kind of seem like you're holding back smirks. Were there improv moments that happened that actually the director's like, okay, we're keeping that? Or was it all tightly...
Oh, yeah.
You guys...
On the Drew Carey show, they totally were. I mean, look, you can't have Ryan Stiles on stage and not expect him to fly in a certain situation. The relationship between Lewis and Oswald, you can tell Oswald looks up to Lewis all the time, and I looked up to Ryan Stiles. I mean, Ryan Stiles is a total genius. And so any, step he would take, he was leading and I would follow. And it was a very big yes and situation. If anybody remembers, we had live shows where we improvised, and basically all I did was just take the lead. Take what I did from Ryan taking the lead. There was a lot of improv on the Drew Carey show, especially, it was really fun to do. And Drew was totally with it. He was laughing so hard because he had not seen those costumes. We had not rehearsed with them, nor had Kate seen them. And Kate Walsh, I was also in the scene, and his hat is. But they both had not seen the wardrobe. And so they're genuinely laughing because the wardrobe, Julie, our wardrobe lady, did a really fabulous job with costume design. And it's genuinely funny.
We know Star Trek was Commando. Were you and Ryan Commando as Batman and Robin as well, or was there...
Let me think. Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Just because I had to wear those tights and everything. Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah. I mean, I think I had a dance belt on that one. Yeah.
So we need to play a game now of going through your IMDb thing, and we just list the thing off and say, okay, Commando, or were there boxers? And we'll just kind of go through the...
Sure, yeah. I thought it was like an established game that you play with everybody. That would be strange if that were the case. I think just that. And, obviously when on the Drew Carey show, when we did the full Monty episode, I was naked. But, and then how long, I guess on Outsource, I was naked on Outsource. I held a coconut in front of me. So I had a coconut, but other than that, yeah. And I guess a bunch of people had to sign releases or whatever to agree that I could be naked in their presence, which is totally cool and as it should be. But yeah, that was and I wasn't running around flashing myself. It was it's odd to walk around and you're naked and everybody else has clothes on. It's not like a locker room situation. It's a strange...
Mine. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's...
Yeah, sure, of course. It's everybody's time out. Yeah, no, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to do. And acting puts you in situations that you would never anticipate. And it's one of the great things. For example, when I went to North Carolina School of the Arts, I was doing very badly in my dance class. And I said to the teacher, I'm enormous. No one is going to hire me to dance. I'm never going to dance in my career. I'm not going to be in musicals. I can't sing. I can barely move. And why would they want me to dance? And she, very wisely, Barbara was her name, said, an actor should never say never. And turns out I did so many musical numbers on the Drew Carey show where I'm dancing all around.
Did you send her a nice letter?
Right.
Hey, look, you were right.
Yes. I sent her a nice letter, and I said, thank you. You were right, and I was wrong, and I learned.
And if you're just now listening, we've been talking with Diedrich Bader. We're coming up. We just literally have about a minute and a half left. This hour has flown by. You mentioned Spread. I know you had a couple other projects that were either in post-production or announced. Is that the next one we should look for you? Is there something else that you're working on we can watch for you to be in?
Spread is it for now. I will, let you guys know as it comes out, but I'm taking it easy for now. I'm growing my strike beard. There's a strike going on. I think actors are going to strike very soon. No one wants to strike, but going forward in the future, we have to nail down what we're doing with streaming, and it is unsustainable at this exact time. I'm fine. Hank is my 7th series as a regular. So I'm okay. We're just talking about the future and future actors, future writers, future directors, everybody in the crew. We have to think about that. So that's why I am voting, and I hope every actor that's watching it now will vote for the SAG to go on strike and say yes.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of the brilliant signs by a lot of people who have been on the show, holding up those signs, going out there, and a lot of the actors have been out there striking with the writers in solidarity. So it's been
I go out there all the time. It's really fun, actually. Crazy, crazily enough, like you see a lot of people that and you walk around and it's kind of odd. It's a kid.
Yeah, it's you guys have good weather to strike in California. Like we mentioned, the weather.
Good striking weather as opposed to New York. Yeah, it's true. I had thought about that, but that's true.
Right. But the Writers Guild strike, obviously we've seen a lot of that on Twitter. So that's something to like Diedrich said, if you're able to vote, make sure you vote, because obviously the writing is the base in which all this acting that they're able to come in and do. That's the base with which it all.
Without writers, we are nothing. We are nothing without writers.
And unfortunately, like I said, I hate to say this is the end, but we've reached the end of the broadcast. I'm going to start playing the outro music. Diedrich Bader, if you want to find him on Twitter and Instagram, it's just @BaderDiedrich, yes?
That's right.
And hopefully, like I said, hopefully we can have you back on again, because I got a whole list of stuff that we didn't even get to. Listeners loved having you, so I appreciate your time on a Sunday night, and I'll reach out and hopefully we can do it again soon.
I would love it.
Thank you very much. There he goes, Diedrich Bader. I want to thank Joey V for coming in, making the show look and sound as good as it does. Thank you to our sponsors, the City of St. Charles, Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. Thank you to Steve's Hot Dogs. Thank you to Bugs Comics. And next week, we've got Paul's son, Young Leon, talking about his role in The Mandalorian and Kim's Convenience. And after that, David Dasmalchin joins us live to talk about his brand new movie, The Boogeyman. Until next week, my friends.
That's a show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Hey kids, are your parents about to buy you a shiny new toy from Amazon?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Well, don't be selfish. Share some of that money with us. Before going on Amazon, make sure to type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser. It will look just like Amazon.com, except it'll say referral Geek to Me Radio up top. And then when you check out, a tiny percentage will go to support the show without costing you 1 cent more. So before your parents get you that gizmo, gadget, or widget, make sure they type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser.
Bit.ly/geek to me. Bit.ly/geek to me.